March of 35, I was kneeling by Sarah's grave with a 3-month-old baby in my arms, listening to her wheeze like a French soldier drowning in mustard gas. The government man had promised formula by Tuesday. That was 3 weeks back. Now it was Thursday, and my daughter Emma was crying so weak it barely sounded human anymore. Dust from the worst black blizzard Kansas ever seen was piling against my fence, and I had one jar of curdled goat's milk between her and starvation. I looked up at that angry sky and said words I ain't proud of. Told God he'd taken enough. Told him if he wanted Emma too, he'd have to pry her from my cold, dead hands. That's when I heard the knock. Faint. Almost swallowed by the wind. By dawn, one of us would be dead. Emma, me, or the woman I'd come to love more than breathing. I just didn't know which. I didn't open the door right away. A man learns caution in war. Learns that knocking during a storm usually means trouble, debt collectors, government men, or folks bringing news you don't want to hear. My hand went to the Colt M1911 on my hip, same one I'd carried through the Argonne forest. Old habits. Mr. Brennan? A woman's voice, barely audible over the wind, screaming through the eaves. It's Beatrice Holcomb. Martha Henderson sent me. I knew the name, vaguely, school teacher from back east. Seen her once, maybe twice at Tucker's General Store. Never spoke more than a nod, and now she was standing on my porch in the middle of a black blizzard that had already killed 3 people across the county. Emma's wheezing got worse. That decided me. I pulled the door open, and the wind damn near tore it off the hinges. Dust poured in like water, and with it came a figure wrapped head to toe in a heavy coat, scarf covering everything but her eyes. She was clutching a wicker basket against her chest like it held the crown jewels. "Get in," I said, grabbing her arm and hauling her inside before the storm could follow. The door slammed shut. We stood there in the dim kerosene light, both breathing hard. She unwrapped the scarf from her face. Young woman, maybe 26, 27. Pretty in a tired sort of way. Dust caked in her hair. Lips cracked from the wind, but her eyes were steady, determined. "You came out in this?" I gestured at the window where you couldn't see 5 feet through the dust. "Your daughter needs help." She didn't waste words. Set the basket on my table and started unwrapping the oilcloth. "Martha said you've been out of formula for 3 days. 4, I corrected, watching her pull out glass bottles. Real formula, the expensive kind. "How'd you—" "My daddy was gassed at Belleau Wood." She lined up the bottles like a pharmacist. Precise, methodical. "I know what lungs sound like when they're drowning on dry land." Emma wailed from the bedroom. That wet, crackling sound that kept me up nights, the sound that reminded me of boys dying in French trenches, choking on their own lungs. Miss Holcomb moved before I could, walked straight into my bedroom like she owned it, picked up my daughter, and started examining her with practiced hands, checked her color, listened to her breathing, felt her forehead. "Respiratory distress," she said, already positioning Emma in the crook of her arm. "Probably from dust exposure. How long has she been this bad?" "Since Sarah died." The words came out rough. 2 weeks after the birth. Complications. Something softened in her face. Not pity. I'd have hated pity. Understanding, maybe. She carried Emma back to the main room, sat in Sarah's rocking chair without asking, and started preparing a bottle. Her hands were quick, confident. "This formula's from the VA hospital in Wichita," she said, testing the temperature on her wrist. "For babies with lung problems. Respiratory cases. VA don't give out baby formula. They do if you know who to ask." She guided the nipple to Emma's mouth. My daughter latched on immediately, sucking with desperate hunger. The wheezing eased, just a little, but enough. I stood there watching this stranger feed my child, and something in my chest cracked open. First time in 2 weeks Emma had stopped crying. First time she'd eaten without fighting the bottle. First time I'd felt anything except exhaustion and failure. "How did you know?" My voice came out hoarse. "About the VA? About me?" She met my eyes over Emma's head. Brown eyes. Sad eyes. Eyes that had seen their own kind of war. Because I know what it's like to fail someone you love, she said quietly. And I know what it's like when nobody comes to help. Outside, the wind howled louder. The shutters rattled. Dust seeped through every crack in the walls, settling like snow on every surface. The storm was getting worse. You can't go back out in that, I said. Wasn't planning to. She adjusted Emma in her arms, and my daughter's eyes started to flutter closed. Content, safe. If you don't mind, Mr. Brennan, I'd like to make sure she keeps this formula down. Sometimes the first feeding comes back up. Silas, I said, and you'll stay till the storm passes. I will. What I didn't know, what I couldn't know kneeling there in the lamplight watching this woman rock my dying daughter back to life, was that she'd stolen that formula, that federal men were already looking for it, and that the knock I'd just answered would set off a chain of events that would cost me everything I owned, or save everything I'd ever love. The storm lasted 3 days. First morning, I woke to the smell of coffee, real coffee, not the chicory substitute I'd been drinking for months. Opened my eyes to find Miss Holcomb at my stove, Emma settled in a nest of blankets near the fire, quiet for the first time since Sarah died. You talk in your sleep, she said without turning around. French words mostly. Then you apologize. I sat up, worked the kinks out of my back from sleeping on the floor. What kind of French words? The kind men say when they're dying. She poured 2 tin cups. My daddy said the same ones. Near the end. We drank coffee in silence. Outside, the world had turned amber. Dust so thick the noon sun looked like dusk. I'd seen battlefields clearer than this. She'd organized my chaos while I slept. Dishes washed and stacked, floor swept. The flour sack I'd been using as Emma's diaper bag was now properly folded with clean cloths inside. Even found Sarah's recipe box and had something that smelled like cornbread heating on the stove. Where'd you learn to make something out of nothing? I asked. Depression teaches you alchemy. She flipped the cornbread. Turn nothing into something or starve. Picked it up in Oklahoma City before the dust ran me out. Thought you were engaged to some banker. Her hands stopped moving, just for a second. Martha talks too much. Small towns. Big mouths, but she smiled a little, sad smile. His name was Charles Whitmore. When his bank started failing, he decided a wife was too expensive, took me to a doctor in Tulsa who solved the problem. I understood without her saying more. Knew men who'd forced that choice on women. Never sat right with me. He took your choice, I said. He did. She touched the pearl earrings at her ears. Only nice things she wore. These were my mama's. She died when I was 9. Said a woman should always have something to pawn. Haven't pawned them yet. Figure that means I'm still standing. Emma made a noise. Not crying, just baby sounds. Beatrice moved to her immediately, checked her color, listened to her breathing. Then she did something that stopped my heart. She started singing, soft and low. Some lullaby I didn't know. Sarah used to sing to Emma. Different songs, but the same gentleness. You're staring, Beatrice said, still focused on Emma. Just thinking how different things would be if you hadn't knocked. I've thought the same. She finally looked at me. Why'd you really let me in? You didn't know me. Storm that bad, some men would have said no. Emma was dying. Pride don't mean much when your daughter's drowning on dry land. Day 2, the dust got worse. We stuffed wet rags in every crack, but it still seeped through. Covered everything in fine powder. Got in your teeth, your lungs, your eyes. Beatrice showed me her medical supplies. Not just formula, but salves and bandages and things I recognized from field hospitals in France. You steal all this from the VA? Borrowed. She rubbed salve on Emma's chest to help her breathe. My friend works there. His daddy died from gas, too. He understands. Friend have a name? Naomi Whitehorse's grandson. Works in the supply room. She met my eyes. He logged it as damaged inventory. But if anyone looks too close, they'll call it theft. They will. By day 3, we'd settled into a rhythm. I'd do the morning chores. What few animals survived the storm needed tending. She'd care for Emma, prepare meals, keep the stove going. Felt almost normal, almost like having Sarah back, except it wasn't Sarah. And I was starting to notice things about Beatrice Holcomb I had no business noticing. The way she hummed while working, how she'd unconsciously touch those pearl earrings when thinking, the strength in her hands when she lifted Emma. Sunday evening, the wind finally stopped. Eerie silence after 3 days of howling. We stepped outside to assess damage. A dust drifts 2 feet high, dead cattle visible in the distance. Henderson Farm barely showing through the haze, 2 miles down the road. My barn was half collapsed, fence line buried. I should go, Beatrice said. Martha will worry. Road won't be clear for days, and Emma needs consistent feeding. What are you saying, Silas? I looked at this woman who'd risked her life in a blizzard to save my daughter, who'd stolen government property, who'd stayed 3 days without asking anything in return. Stay, long as Emma needs, long as… I couldn't finish. Long as what? Before I could answer, I saw it. Dust cloud on the horizon. Not natural, vehicle dust. Black Model A Ford with a government seal on the door. And it was headed straight for my farm. Harold Pritchard stepped out of that Ford like a man who'd never known hunger. Clean suit, polished shoes, fedora that probably cost more than my seed money for spring planting, if I'd had any. He carried a clipboard the way soldiers carry rifles, official, dangerous. Mr. Brennan? He looked at my shack like it might give him disease. Harold Pritchard, Agricultural Adjustment Administration. I stepped off the porch, putting myself between him and the house, between him and Beatrice, between him and Emma. What can I do for you, Mr. Pritchard? Just a routine inspection. His eyes tracked past me to where Beatrice stood in the doorway, Emma in her arms. His eyebrows went up. And this would be Mrs. Brennan? The question hung there like a noose. Miss Holcomb, Beatrice said, voice steady. I'm helping with the baby. I see. He pulled out a pencil, made a note, didn't believe a word. How long have you been helping? 3 days, since the storm. Another note. Mr. Brennan, you've received 2 federal relief payments, totaling $47.50, correct? That's right. Kept me and Emma fed till the formula ran out. Pritchard walked my property like he was counting inventory. Dead cattle, collapsed barn, drought-killed fields, wrote everything down with precise little marks. Then he turned back to me. And yet you have hired help. He gestured at Beatrice. During a financial crisis, interesting allocation of relief funds. My hands balled into fists. She ain't hired. She's helping out a Christian charity. Christian charity. He smiled. Wasn't a kind smile. Unmarried woman living under your roof? That's what we're calling it now? Beatrice's face went white. I took a step toward Pritchard. He took a step back. You watch your mouth about Miss Holcomb. Or what, Mr. Brennan? He straightened his tie. You'll assault a federal officer. That'll look wonderful in my report. He moved to where Beatrice stood, peered at Emma. My daughter was sleeping peaceful for once. Full belly, clean diaper, breathing easy. He examined the formula bottle on the table, picked it up, read the label. VA Hospital, Wichita. His voice went cold. These are restricted medical supplies, available only to authorized recipients with proper documentation. Do you have authorization for infant formula, Mr. Brennan? My throat went dry. I'm a veteran. Got my papers. Your papers authorize you for treatment, not your daughter. Not for infant respiratory formula. He set the bottle down carefully. Where did you obtain these supplies? I could feel Beatrice trembling behind me. Could hear her breathing change. She'd stolen them. We both knew it. And now this government vulture was circling. Found them, I said. Found them. That's right. After the storm. Must have blown off a supply truck. Pritchard's smile was all teeth. 6 bottles of specialized infant formula, with intact labels, just blew into your yard during a dust storm. That's your statement? That's my statement. He wrote for a long time. The scratch of his pencil was the only sound except Emma's soft breathing and the wind picking up again outside. Mr. Brennan, I'm filing a report with my superiors. suspected misuse of federal relief funds, suspected theft of government medical property. He looked past me at Beatrice. And moral turpitude affecting the welfare of a minor child. Moral turpitude? Beatrice's voice shook. We've done nothing. Unmarried woman cohabitating with a widower. In some counties, that's grounds for removing a child from an unsuitable environment. He closed his clipboard. You have 1 week, Mr. Brennan. Either Miss Holcomb leaves this property, or I return with the county sheriff and a court order for emergency custody of your daughter. The world tilted. Emma. They were threatening to take Emma. My hand went to my pistol, not consciously, just old instinct. Pritchard saw it. Went pale. Don't be stupid, son, he said, backing toward his car. Think about your daughter. I was thinking about my daughter, thinking about men in uniforms taking her away, thinking about government offices and orphanages, and Emma growing up wondering why her daddy didn't fight for her. Pritchard got in his Ford, started the engine, rolled down the window. 1 week, Mr. Brennan. Make the right choice. He drove off in a cloud of dust and righteousness. Beatrice collapsed against the doorframe. Emma started crying, like she knew, like babies always know when the world's falling apart. Silas, I'm so sorry, her voice broke. The formula, I stole it. I knew they wouldn't miss a few bottles, and Emma was dying, and I thought. I turned to her, this woman who'd saved my daughter's life, who'd risked everything, who was about to lose everything because of me. Don't apologize for saving her, but they'll take Emma, or arrest me. Or both. I looked at the dust cloud from Pritchard's car, then at Beatrice, then at Emma, crying in her arms. There's a fourth option, I said. We get married. Beatrice stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. That's your proposal? Beatrice's voice went sharp. That's how you ask a woman to marry you? There's a fourth option? I didn't mean. I stopped. Started over. Emma needs you. And legally, if you're my wife, Pritchard can't claim moral turpitude, can't threaten custody. So I'd be a legal convenience. She shifted Emma to her other hip. I've been that before, Silas. With Charles. Won't do it again. It wouldn't be like that. Then what would it be? The honest answer stuck in my throat, because the truth was, somewhere in those 3 days of storm and coffee and watching her sing to my daughter, something had shifted. But saying it felt like betraying Sarah, felt too soon. Felt like admitting I was more desperate for Beatrice to stay than I wanted to admit. Let me think on it, I said finally. We got a week. Maybe there's another way. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Pritchard's clipboard, his smile, the way he'd looked at Emma like she was evidence in a case, not a baby. Around midnight, my dog Rex started barking. Deep, threatening barks, the kind he saved for coyotes or strangers. I grabbed my pistol, moved to the window. Nothing but darkness and dust haze, but Rex wouldn't quit. And now I heard it too. Engine sounds, multiple vehicles. Silas? Beatrice stood in the bedroom doorway, Emma clutched to her chest. What's wrong? Don't know yet. Stay inside. Lock the door behind me. I stepped onto the porch. Rex was at the fence line, hackles up, barking at the road. Then I saw them. Headlights. 3, maybe 4 vehicles, moving slow up my drive. They stopped 50 yards out. Doors opened. Men climbed out. I counted 6, 7. In the darkness, couldn't make out faces, but I recognized the lead vehicle, Moses Tucker's delivery truck. Moses? I called out. That you? It's me, Silas. His voice carried across the distance. Got some folks want to talk to you. The men moved into the wash of their headlights. Moses, Abraham Stern, the lawyer from town, a couple of farmers I knew by sight, Ben Kowalski, Dutch Herman, and 2 I didn't recognize. One was an old woman in traditional Cherokee dress. Kind of late for a social call, I said, hands still on my pistol. Heard about your trouble with Pritchard. Stern stepped forward, briefcase in hand. Thought you might want legal counsel. Can't afford a lawyer. Didn't ask for money. He climbed the porch steps. May we come in? Beatrice had the door cracked, watching. I nodded to her. She opened it wider. They filed into my small house. Too many people for the space. Moses introduced the Cherokee woman as Naomi Whitehorse, and she looked at Emma with ancient, knowing eyes. "That baby has strong lungs now," Naomi said. "My grandson told me about the formula. The one with pearl earrings who took it." Beatrice touched her ears unconsciously. "I can explain." "No need." Naomi's face softened. "My husband died from gas in 1919. Lungs drowned on dry land. Same as your little one was heading." She looked at me. "My grandson works supply at the VA. He logged those bottles as damaged. No theft if there's no complaint." Hope flickered. "So Beatrice is clear?" "From the hospital, yes. But Pritchard doesn't know that. He never contacted the VA. Just assumed." Stern opened his briefcase, pulled out papers. "Which means his theft charges are based on assumptions, not evidence." "But the custody threat is real," Moses added. "Moral turpitude. Unmarried woman living with widower. That'll stick in county court." "Unless," Naomi said slowly, "you petition under different law, Cherokee law." I frowned. "I'm not Cherokee. But this land is." She pulled out an old map, spread it on my table. "Treaty land, 1835. Never properly ceded. Tribal law applies in certain circumstances, including adoption, guardianship." Stern picked up the thread. "If Beatrice petitions the Cherokee Nation for emergency guardianship of Emma, the county court has to recognize it. She becomes Emma's legal guardian without marriage. Retroactive authorization for medical care." "Including the formula," Moses finished. "It was brilliant and impossible." "How long would that take?" "Tribal council meets Friday morning in Tahlequah, Oklahoma." Naomi folded the map. 200 miles south. "That's 3 days from now," Beatrice said, "and we're almost out of formula again." Naomi smiled, reached into the bag Moses was carrying, pulled out 6 bottles. "My grandson sends his regards. Said a baby shouldn't suffer for bureaucracy." Emma chose that moment to whimper. Beatrice automatically started rocking her. The movement was so natural, so maternal, that something in my chest cracked wider. "There's a catch," Stern said. "The petition requires an appearance before the council, in person, both of you, with Emma." 200 miles through Dust Bowl country," I said. "Bad roads, worse weather." "In 3 days," Beatrice added. "And," Stern continued, "if Pritchard finds out you've left the county with Emma during a custody dispute, he'll issue a warrant. Kidnapping." Outside, Rex started barking again. Different bark this time, warning bark. Moses moved to the window, went still. "Silas, you got more company." I looked. Another set of headlights coming up the drive, expensive car, moving fast. The Packard stopped 20 feet from my porch. Door opened. Man stepped out in a suit that cost more than my farm. "That's Cyrus Whitaker," Moses whispered. "The banker. Owns half the foreclosed farms in the county." And behind him, getting out of the passenger side, was a man Beatrice gasped to see. "Charles," she breathed. "What's Charles doing here?" Charles Whitmore walked toward my porch like he owned it. Handsome fellow, I'll give him that. Slicked back hair, tailored suit, smile that probably charmed half of Oklahoma City before the banks started failing. He extended his hand to me, ignored it when I didn't take it, then turned that smile on Beatrice. "Beatrice, my God, it's been what, 2 years?" Like they were old friends meeting at a church social. "You look wonderful. Country life agrees with you." Beatrice's face had gone stone. "Charles, what are you doing here?" "Business with Mr. Whitaker." He gestured back at the banker, who stood by his Packard watching us like a cat watches mice. "Heard you were in Henderson. Thought I'd pay my respects." "Your respects." Her voice could have cut glass. "That what we're calling it?" I stepped between them. "You got 30 seconds to state your business, then you're leaving my property." Charles finally looked at me, really looked, sizing me up the way men do when they're deciding if you're a threat. His eyes lingered on my pistol, on my scarred knuckles, on the way I stood, balanced, ready. "War taught you how to stand, how to telegraph that you've killed before, and you'll do it again if pressed." Something in his face changed, less cocky. Mr. Brennan, I've heard about your situation. The farm, the baby. Quite unfortunate. 30 seconds just became 15. Mr. Whitaker sent me to make you an offer. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. $600 for your property. Cash. Today. More than fair, considering the condition of no. You didn't even look at. Don't need to. Answers no. Whitaker called from his car. Mr. Whitmore, tell him about the alternative. Charles's smile went cold. Professional. Mr. Whitaker has purchased your tax debt from the county. You owe $237 in back taxes, due Monday. That's 4 days from now. You don't have $237, Mr. Brennan, so Monday your farm goes to auction, and Mr. Whitaker will be the only bidder. My stomach dropped. Moses swore softly behind me. Stern was already pulling out papers, checking dates. Additionally, Charles continued, enjoying himself now, we're aware of the federal investigation into theft of government property. The formula Miss Holcomb acquired illegally from the VA hospital in Wichita. Beatrice made a small sound. I felt her hand find mine, squeeze tight. Naomi spoke up, voice sharp. My grandson logged that formula as damaged inventory. There's no theft. Charles pulled out another paper. We have a sworn statement from a VA administrator claiming 6 bottles of specialized infant formula went missing 3 weeks ago. Unaccounted for. He's willing to press charges. That's a lie, Naomi said. My grandson would never. Your grandson was fired yesterday for inventory discrepancies. Charles looked at Beatrice. Seems he was helping himself to supplies and helping certain friends. The new administrator is very interested in recovering stolen property. I felt Beatrice trembling, felt the fight going out of her. Saw Charles see it too, saw him move in for the kill. Beatrice. His voice went soft, almost kind. This doesn't have to involve you. You could walk away. Come work for Mr. Whitaker's organization. We have offices in 3 states now. Good salary. Respectable position. No criminal record. In exchange for what? She whispered. Leave Mr. Brennan, today. Sign a statement saying you found the formula abandoned. Had no knowledge it was stolen. We make the federal charges disappear. The house went silent. Even Emma had stopped fussing, like she knew something important was happening. Beatrice looked at me, at Emma in her arms, at Charles with his clean suit and his dirty offers. I saw her working through it. Saw her adding up the cost of staying versus leaving. Saw her touching those pearl earrings. No, she said finally. Charles blinked. I'm sorry? I said no. Her voice got stronger. I'm not leaving. I'm not signing anything. And you can tell Mr. Whitaker that his oil field can wait till hell freezes over. Charles went pale. How did you? You used to talk in your sleep too, Beatrice said. About Kansas. About oil surveys. About buying distressed farmland for pennies on the dollar. I didn't understand it then. I understand it now. Whitaker was out of his car now, moving toward us. Big man. Hard face. Miss Holcomb, I don't know what you think you know. I know you're stealing land you know sits on oil deposits, she said. I know you're using Pritchard and the AAA to force people out. I know you're a thief with a nice suit. Whitaker's expression went dangerous. Careful, young lady. Slander is actionable. Truth is a defense. Prove it. Stern stepped forward, briefcase open. Actually, I've been documenting irregularities in county tax sales for 6 months. Funny thing, every property you've acquired shows the same pattern. Sudden tax liens, federal investigations, convenient foreclosures, all on land that matches geological survey maps for potential oil deposits. You have no proof. I have 14 properties. Same pattern. That's not coincidence. That's conspiracy. Whitaker smiled. Wasn't a nice smile. You have theories, Mr. Stern. I have lawyers. Better ones than you. And I have friends in the federal prosecutor's office. Speaking of which, he pulled out his own papers. Court documents. Real ones. Emergency custody hearing. Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. County Courthouse. Judge Morrison presiding. The state is petitioning to remove Emma Brennan from her father's care, pending investigation into unsuitable living conditions and suspected child endangerment. The world tilted. You can't. I can. I did. And unless you sell me this farm by midnight tonight, that hearing proceeds. The state will take your daughter. Put her in county custody until the federal investigation concludes. Could be months, could be years. He folded the papers carefully. Or you sign my purchase agreement, get your $600, walk away, keep your daughter. Beatrice's hand tightened on mine. Silas, don't, I said. Don't even think about leaving. But Emma, we fight. I looked at Whitaker, at Charles, at their smug, certain faces. We fight in court. We expose your scheme. You lose, Whitaker said simply. You're a broke farmer with a dead wife and a criminal girlfriend. I'm a respected businessman with political connections. Who do you think Judge Morrison believes? He walked back to his Packard. Charles followed, pausing at Beatrice. Last chance, B. Walk away from this. Save yourself. She spat in the dust at his feet. After they drove off, we stood in silence. Moses, Stern, Naomi, the farmers, all looking at each other, at me, at Emma. We have one option left, Naomi said quietly. The tribal council, tomorrow morning in Tahlequah. That's the same time as the custody hearing, Beatrice said. I know. Stern shook his head. If you're not at that hearing, Silas, the judge grants custody to the state automatically. You lose Emma. And if we don't petition the tribal council, Naomi added, you have no legal grounds to fight Whitaker's custody claim. You lose Emma. I looked down at my daughter, at Beatrice holding her, at the woman I'd known for 6 days who'd become more essential than breathing. Then we split up, I said. Beatrice takes Emma to Tahlequah. I go to the custody hearing. We fight on 2 fronts. Silas, I can't drive 200 miles alone with... Moses will take you. And Naomi? You'll have help. Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. What if they take her anyway? What if I can't? I cupped her face. First time I'd touched her like that. Gentle, deliberate. You saved her once, I said. You'll save her again. I trust you. But what about you? What will you tell the judge? The truth, that I'm a father fighting for his daughter, and that I love the woman who's helping me raise her. The words hung there. Finally said, finally real. Outside, Rex started barking again, and this time when I looked, I saw flames. My barn was burning. The barn went up like kindling, dry wood, months of drought. Flames climbed 30 feet in seconds, turning night into hellish orange day. I ran toward it. Old instinct, save what you can. But Moses grabbed my arm. Let it go, Silas. Ain't nothing in there worth dying for. He was right. The cow was already dead. Chickens scattered, just hay and rotting timber. But watching it burn felt like watching my life collapse in real time. The farm. Sarah's memory. Everything I'd built turning to ash. Beatrice stood on the porch, Emma clutched tight, firelight dancing across her face. She looked terrified. Not of the fire, of what it meant. Whitaker, I said. He did this. Can't prove it, Stern said. And even if you could, he'll claim it was an accident. Dry conditions. Spontaneous combustion. Rex was going crazy, barking at the tree line. Then I saw movement. Someone running through the dust haze, not toward us. Away. There, I pointed. Started to give chase, but the figure was already gone into the darkness. Could have been anyone. Could have been Whitaker's men. Could have been ghosts for all the good it did me. We watched the barn burn till there was nothing left but smoking timber and the acrid smell of destruction. You still want to fight? Moses asked quietly. Man's just shown you what he's capable of. I looked at Emma, at Beatrice, at the ruins of my barn. What else can I do? Give up? Hand him my daughter and my land? Some men would. I ain't some men. Naomi touched my arm. The tribal council meets at dawn, 6 hours from now. If you're going to split up, you need to leave, now. Beatrice shook her head. I can't. I can't take Emma 200 miles without you, Silas. What if something happens? What if she gets sick again? What if— Moses will be with you, Naomi. You'll have help. That's not the same. I knew what she meant. Knew she was scared. Knew she was right to be scared. But we were out of options and out of time. Pack her things, I said. Formula, diapers, everything she needs. Moses, your truck got enough gas? Enough to get to Tahlequah and back. Good. Stern, you're coming with me to the custody hearing. I'll need a lawyer. Silas, I have to tell you, Judge Morrison is a good man, but he's by the book. Without Beatrice there, without proof she's Emma's legal guardian, he's going to rule for the state. They'll take Emma into custody pending the federal investigation. How long does that take? Federal investigation. Could be months, years even. My chest tightened. Years. Emma in some county home. Growing up not knowing me, not knowing Beatrice, not knowing she was loved. Then we better win in Tahlequah, I said. We were loading Moses's truck when another vehicle came up the drive. Everyone tensed, hands on weapons, ready for Whitaker's men. But this was an old farm truck. Battered. Familiar. Ben Kowalski and Dutch Herman climbed out. Two of the farmers who'd been here earlier. Saw the fire from our place, Ben said. Figured you could use help. Barn's gone, I said. Nothing left to save. Wasn't talking about the barn. Dutch gestured back toward the road. Whitaker's got men watching your property. 3 of them, parked half a mile down. They see you leave with that baby, they'll follow. Radio ahead. You won't make it 10 miles before the sheriff stops you. My stomach dropped. Of course Whitaker would have watchers. Of course he'd planned for us running. So what do we do? Beatrice asked. Ben smiled. We create a diversion. Dutch and I take our trucks out your back way, through the wheat field. Make a lot of noise, draw them off. You 3 slip out quiet, take the county road south. By the time Whitaker's men figure it out, you'll have an hour head start. Why would you do that? I asked. Whitaker finds out you helped us. He'll come after your farms next. He's coming for them anyway, Dutch said. Man's already got liens filed on half the county. We figured it out same as you did. Oil. He's taking everyone's land. Difference is, you're willing to fight back. That gives the rest of us hope. Plus, Ben added, my wife had a baby die in childbirth 3 years back. If there's a chance to save someone else's little one, I reckon we take it. I felt something crack open in my chest. Not despair this time. Something else. Something I hadn't felt since France in the trenches, when your brother soldiers stood with you knowing they might die. Brotherhood. Thank you, I managed. Thank us by winning. Ben shook my hand. Now get moving. You got 6 hours to make 200 miles on bad roads. Beatrice climbed into Moses's truck, Emma bundled in blankets, Naomi beside her, Moses behind the wheel. I handed Beatrice my pistol through the window. Just in case, I said. She took it. Our hands touched. Held. I love you, I said. In case I don't get another chance to say it. Her eyes filled. You'll get plenty of chances. We're both coming back. Promise me something. If the council says no, if they won't grant guardianship, you take Emma and keep driving. California, Mexico, somewhere Whitaker can't reach. Silas, promise me, Emma lives. That's all that matters. What about you? I'll be fine. I survived France. I can survive a crooked banker. She kissed me then, hard and desperate. Then Moses started the engine and they were pulling away, headlights cutting through the dust and darkness. I watched until the taillights disappeared. Watched until I couldn't hear the engine anymore. Watched until all I could see was smoke from my ruined barn rising into a sky full of stars that didn't care about farmers or babies or justice. You ready? Stern asked. No, but we're going anyway. Ben and Dutch fired up their trucks, roared out through the wheat field, making enough noise to wake the dead. Within minutes, I saw headlights moving, Whitaker's watchers taking the bait. Stern and I slipped out quiet, took the county road north toward town, toward the courthouse, toward a judge who held Emma's fate in his hands. What are you going to tell Morrison? Stern asked. Without Beatrice there? Without proof of guardianship? I thought about that, about what Judge Morrison needed to hear. about what would make a by-the-book man bend the rules. The truth, I said finally, that I'm a father who loves his daughter, that I found a woman who loves her too, that we're trying to build a family out of the wreckage of loss, and that sometimes the law needs to serve people instead of the other way around. That's not a legal argument. No, but it's a human one. And Morrison's human. Somewhere under that robe. We drove in silence for a while. The courthouse was 50 miles north. Tahlequah was 200 miles south. Emma was caught between them. Between law and tradition, between a crooked banker and a desperate father, the sun was just starting to gray the eastern horizon when Stern's truck coughed once, twice, then died. We coasted to a stop on an empty stretch of road. Middle of nowhere, 3 hours till the hearing. Stern turned the key. Nothing. Tried again. Nothing. Out of gas? I asked. No. I filled up yesterday. Must be the fuel pump. Or… He got out. Opened the hood. Even in the dim pre-dawn light, I could see the problem. Someone had cut the fuel line. Clean slice. Deliberate. Whitaker, I said. Must have done it while we were fighting the fire. Knew you'd have to drive to the hearing. I looked at the empty road stretching in both directions. No houses, no help, no way to make it 50 miles in 3 hours on foot. We were stranded. And in 3 hours, Judge Morrison would declare Emma Brennan a ward of the state. We stood on that empty road watching the sun climb higher, and I felt time slipping away like sand through fingers. Stern was under the hood, trying to patch the fuel line with electrical tape and prayer. Wasn't working. Oil was still leaking onto the dust. How long to fix it properly? I asked. Without parts. Can't be done. We'd need to get towed to a garage, get a new line, install it. He wiped his hands on his pants. 6 hours. Maybe more. The hearing started in 2.5. I looked down the road, north to the courthouse, south toward where Beatrice and Emma were racing toward Tahlequah. Both directions empty, both directions impossible. Start walking, I said. Silas, it's 50 miles. Then I better get moving. I made it maybe 3 miles before I heard the engine behind me, turned, hand on my pistol, expecting Whitaker's men. Instead, it was an old farm truck I recognized, Harold Pritchard at the wheel, the federal inspector. The man who'd threatened to take Emma, the last person I expected to see. He pulled alongside, rolled down his window. Get in. Go to hell. Mr. Brennan, I'm trying to help you. Help me? You're the one who started all this. The custody complaint, the federal charges, all filed by Whitaker, using my name, using my office. His voice was rough, like he'd been up all night. I found out last night. He forged my signature on the custody petition, used my credentials without authorization. I stared at him. Why would he do that? Because he needed federal authority to make it stick. A county custody case alone, you could fight. But federal investigation plus county petition? That's different. That's overwhelming. Pritchard's jaw tightened. I've been Whitaker's fool for 2 years, inspecting farms he wanted to buy, filing reports that drove good people off their land, telling myself it was just business. Just following regulations. So what changed? Your barn. I was there last night, watching, saw his men set the fire. He looked at me. I saw your daughter in that woman's arms. Saw the way Miss Holcomb held her, the way you looked at both of them. And I remembered. He stopped, swallowed hard. My wife died in childbirth, 10 years ago. Baby too. I've spent a decade watching other fathers with their children, hating them for having what I lost. When Whitaker asked me to file that custody complaint, I thought, why should you keep your daughter when I lost mine? The honesty of it hit like a fist. Raw, ugly, human. But then I saw that fire, he continued. Saw a man willing to lose everything for his child. And I realized I'd become the kind of man who destroys families because he couldn't save his own. That ain't the man my wife married. Ain't the man I want to be. What are you saying? I'm saying get in the truck. I'm taking you to the courthouse. And I'm telling Judge Morrison the truth, that Whitaker forged my signature, that there's no legitimate federal investigation, that the custody petition is fraudulent. I didn't move. Why should I trust you? Because you don't have a choice, and because I'm done being Whitaker's hatchet man. He leaned across, opened the passenger door. Your hearing starts in 2 hours. We can make it if we leave now. I climbed in. What else could I do? We drove in silence for a while. Then Pritchard said, the woman, Miss Holcomb, she loves that baby. She does. And you love her. I do. Then fight for them. Way I should have fought for mine. The courthouse in Henderson was a 2-story brick building that looked older than God and twice as stern. We arrived with 15 minutes to spare. Judge Morrison's courtroom was already filling up, townspeople, curious onlookers, and sitting in the front row, Cyrus Whitaker in his expensive suit. He saw me walk in with Pritchard and his face went white, then red. Your Honor, Whitaker stood immediately. I object to Mr. Pritchard's presence. He's a witness for the state. Actually, Pritchard said loudly, I'm here to withdraw the state's petition. The courtroom went silent. Judge Morrison, old man with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing, looked over his glasses. Withdraw? On what grounds? On the grounds that my signature was forged, that I never filed a federal investigation, that this entire proceeding is based on fraudulent documents submitted by Mr. Whitaker without my knowledge or authorization. Morrison's gaze swung to Whitaker. Is this true? Your Honor, Mr. Pritchard is clearly confused. I'm not confused. I'm done lying. Pritchard pulled papers from his briefcase. I have documentation of every conversation with Mr. Whitaker, every instruction he gave me, every farm he asked me to inspect, every fraudulent report I filed at his request, including this custody petition, which he had his assistant forge my signature on using official AAA letterhead. Morrison examined the papers. His expression darkened. Mr. Whitaker, these are serious allegations. Allegations from a disgruntled employee. Employee? Pritchard laughed bitterly. I'm a federal inspector. You don't employ me. You manipulated me. Used my position to steal land from desperate people. But I'm done. I've already filed a formal complaint with the federal prosecutor's office. They're opening an investigation into your activities. Real investigation, not the fake one you claimed existed. Whitaker's lawyer stood. Your Honor, regardless of Mr. Pritchard's claims, there's still the matter of the child's welfare. Mr. Brennan is cohabitating with an unmarried woman. Miss Holcomb has no legal standing. Actually, she does. Everyone turned. In the back of the courtroom, a door opened. Beatrice walked in, Emma in her arms. Behind her, Moses, Naomi, and a man I didn't recognize, older, Cherokee, wearing traditional dress and a business suit somehow combined. Who are you? Morrison asked. Thomas Blackbird, Chief Justice, Cherokee Nation Supreme Court. He approached the bench with papers. This morning at dawn, the Cherokee Tribal Council granted emergency guardianship of Emma Sarah Brennan to Miss Beatrice Holcomb under Cherokee Nation law. These lands fall under the 1835 treaty. Tribal law applies. Morrison read the documents. This appears to be in order. But Miss Holcomb is not Cherokee. The child's great-grandmother was Cherokee, Naomi said, standing. Sarah Brennan, the mother, daughter of my cousin. 1/8 Cherokee blood. Enough for tribal enrollment, enough for tribal law to apply. I stared. Sarah never told me. She probably didn't know, Naomi said gently. Her mother left the tribe young, married white. But the blood doesn't lie, and tribal records don't forget. Whitaker was on his feet. This is absurd. You can't just— Yes, we can. Blackbird's voice cut through the courtroom like a blade. Cherokee Nation is sovereign. Our guardianship orders are recognized by federal and state courts per treaty law. Miss Holcomb is now Emma Brennan's legal guardian. She has standing, she has authority, and she has the full backing of the Cherokee Nation. Morrison looked at Beatrice, at Emma sleeping in her arms, at me standing there realizing my wife had carried a secret she'd never known. A secret that was now saving our daughter. Miss Holcomb, Morrison said, do you understand the responsibilities of guardianship? I do, Your Honor. And you're prepared to care for this child as if she were your own? Beatrice looked at me, at Emma. She already is my own, in every way that matters. Morrison turned to me. Mr. Brennan, do you consent to this guardianship arrangement? I do, with my whole heart. Then I see no grounds for state intervention. The federal investigation has been withdrawn. The custody petition is based on fraudulent documents. Tribal law grants Miss Holcomb legal standing. He banged his gavel. Case dismissed. Emma Brennan remains in the joint custody of her father and her legal guardian. The courtroom erupted. Whitaker was shouting. His lawyer was objecting, but Morrison kept banging his gavel until silence returned. Mr. Whitaker, Morrison said quietly, you're fortunate I don't hold you in contempt, but I'm going to do something better. I'm referring these documents to the state attorney general. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Let them sort out your crimes. Whitaker's face went purple. You can't. I just did. Now get out of my courtroom before I add threatening a judge to your charges. Whitaker stormed out, his lawyer scrambling behind him. I crossed the courtroom in 3 steps, pulled Beatrice and Emma into my arms, and for the first time in months felt like I could breathe. We won, Beatrice whispered. We did. What happens now? Before I could answer, Moses burst through the doors, face white. Silas, we got a problem. Big one. What kind of problem? The kind with torches and about 50 men. Whitaker's at your farm, and he brought an army. We made it back to the farm in 20 minutes, Moses driving like the devil himself was chasing us. The devil was waiting when we arrived. 50 men, maybe more, spread across my property like an occupying army, torches lit even though it was midday. Symbolic, threatening. Whitaker stood on my porch like he owned it, flanked by a dozen rough-looking fellows I didn't recognize. Hired muscle, the kind of men who break knees for money. My ruined barn still smoldered behind them, smoke rising like a funeral pyre. I climbed out of Moses's truck, slow and deliberate. Beatrice stayed inside with Emma, Naomi beside her. Moses, Stern, Pritchard, and Chief Blackbird flanked me. We were outnumbered 10-1. Didn't matter. I'd faced worse odds in France. Whitaker, I called out. You're trespassing. Get off my land. He smiled. That banker's smile. All teeth and no warmth. Your land? You owe $237 in back taxes, Brennan. Due yesterday. You didn't pay. As of this morning, this property is in default, which means it belongs to the county, which means it belongs to me. Show me the paperwork. He pulled documents from his coat, waved them like a victory flag. Right here, county tax assessor's signature, all legal and proper. Stern stepped forward, examined the papers. His face went tight. These are dated 3 days ago, filed and approved before the taxes were actually due. Clerical error, Whitaker said smoothly. No. Fraud. Stern pulled out his own papers. I checked county records this morning. The tax lien was filed by your office using forged documentation. The assessor never signed these. You did. Whitaker's smile never wavered. Prove it. I can. A new voice. From the crowd of hired men, someone stepped forward. Older fellow, maybe 60, wearing a county clerk's uniform. My name's Walter Simmons, county tax assessor for 23 years. That ain't my signature on those papers, and I'm prepared to testify to that fact under oath. Whitaker went pale. Walter, we had an agreement. We had an arrangement where you paid me to look the other way. Then last night you threatened my granddaughter, said if I didn't cooperate, she'd have an accident. Walter's voice shook with rage. You don't threaten family, not in my county. The crowd shifted, murmured. I saw men exchange glances, hired muscle realizing they'd been brought to enforce a crime, not collect a legitimate debt. This is absurd, Whitaker blustered. Walter, you're clearly confused. I'm clear as spring water. Walter pulled out a ledger. I kept records. Every payment you made, every document you had me forge, every farmer you stole from, got 23 properties documented here. 23 families you destroyed. Whitaker's composure cracked. You've been taking my money for 2 years. You don't get to grow a conscience now. You're right, I don't. But my granddaughter getting threatened? That changes things. Walter looked at me. Mr. Brennan, I'm sorry. I signed off on fake liens for 15 farms. Yours included. I took Whitaker's money and I betrayed my oath. I'll face whatever punishment comes, but I won't let him take one more family's land. The crowd was definitely shifting now. Men backing away from Whitaker, lowering their torches. The smart ones were already heading for their trucks. Besides, Pritchard added, stepping forward, I spent this morning with the state attorney general, showed them everything, the forged documents, the conspiracy, the oil surveys Whitaker's been hiding. They've issued a warrant for his arrest, fraud, racketeering, conspiracy to commit theft. Whitaker looked around. His hired men were leaving. His allies were abandoning him. Walter had turned state's evidence. The game was over. But desperate men do desperate things. You think this changes anything? Whitaker's voice went hard. Cold. You think exposing me saves you? I still own half this county. I still have lawyers, judges, politicians. I'll tie you up in court for years. You'll spend every penny you have fighting me. And in the end, I'll still win, because that's what men like me do. Men like you, I said quietly, end up in prison, or worse. Is that a threat? No. It's a fact. See, I learned something in France, in the trenches. When you're surrounded and outgunned and the odds are impossible, you don't quit. You dig in, you hold your ground, and you wait for the enemy to make a mistake. I stepped closer, close enough to see the sweat on his forehead, close enough to smell his fear. You made your mistake when you threatened my daughter, when you brought your army to my land, when you thought I'd break. I looked at the men still standing with him, down to maybe 5 now. But I didn't break in France. Didn't break when Sarah died. Didn't break when you tried to steal everything I own. And I sure as hell won't break now. Whitaker's hand moved inside his coat, fast. Came out with a Derringer, small pistol, 2 shots. He aimed it at Emma, at my baby girl in Beatrice's arms 30 feet away. Put the gun down, I said, voice deadly calm. My hand was already on my Colt. You ruined me, Whitaker said, voice shaking. Eyes wild. You and that woman and that brat. If I can't have this land, nobody can. Time slowed. I saw his finger tighten on the trigger. Saw Beatrice turn, shielding Emma with her body. Saw Moses start to move. Saw everything with that crystal clarity you get in combat when death is 1 second away. My Colt cleared leather, aimed, fired. 1 shot. The Derringer flew from Whitaker's hand, blood spraying from his fingers. He screamed, clutching his shattered hand. I didn't lower my weapon. Next one goes center mass. Your choice. He collapsed to his knees, crying, broken. The mighty banker reduced to a sobbing man nursing a mangled hand. Marshall arrived then, must have been called when the crowd gathered. He took one look at the scene, at Whitaker on the ground, at my smoking pistol, at the witnesses everywhere. Mr. Whitaker, the marshal said tiredly, you're under arrest. They hauled him away, still crying, still clutching his hand. The remaining hired men scattered like roaches. Walter Simmons handed his ledger to Pritchard, then sat down on my porch steps looking 10 years older. I'm sorry, he said to me, for all of it. You did right in the end, I said. That counts for something. Beatrice emerged from the truck, Emma quiet now, sensing the danger had passed. She walked to me, and I holstered my pistol, wrapped my arms around both of them. Is it over? She whispered. It's over. What about the farm? The taxes? Stern cleared his throat. With Walter's testimony, the tax lien is void. The farm is yours free and clear. Plus, when they survey that land and find oil, and they will, you'll get royalties. Enough to rebuild. Enough to live well. Chief Blackbird approached, placed his hand on my shoulder. You fought with honor. The Cherokee Nation won't forget. If you need anything, anything at all, you call on us. Thank you, I managed. For everything. The crowd dispersed. Moses started cleaning up the torch marks from my yard. Pritchard helped Walter to his feet, told him a good lawyer and full cooperation would help at sentencing. Stern started making notes for legal filings, and I stood there with Beatrice and Emma, watching the sun start its descent toward evening. Silas? Beatrice's voice was small. In the courthouse. You said you loved me. Did you mean it? I looked at her. Really looked. At this woman who'd knocked on my door during a blizzard, who'd stolen government formula to save my daughter, who'd faced down bankers and lawyers and hired thugs, who'd chosen us when she could have walked away a dozen times. I meant it, I said. Meant every word. Good. She shifted Emma to one arm, reached into her pocket with the other, pulled out those pearl earrings. Because I'm ready to pawn these now. Why? Because I don't need them anymore. Don't need something to fall back on. Don't need an escape plan. She smiled, tears in her eyes. I'm home. I kissed her then, long and deep and full of promise. Emma cooed between us, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled. Not a dust storm this time, real thunder, rain clouds building on the horizon. The drought was breaking. Silas, Moses called from the yard. You got one more visitor. I turned. A figure was walking up the road. Woman, elderly, leaning on a cane. As she got closer, I recognized her. Mrs. Henderson, Martha, the woman who'd sent Beatrice to my door that first night, and she was carrying something, a bundle wrapped in cloth. Mr. Brennan, she said, slightly out of breath. I need to tell you something. About your wife. About Sarah. My stomach dropped. What about her? She came to see me 2 days before Emma was born. Said if anything happened to her, if she didn't make it, she wanted me to do something. Martha unwrapped the bundle. Inside was a letter, sealed. Addressed to me in Sarah's handwriting. She made me promise, if she died and if you were struggling, I was to send help. And when the time was right, I was to give you this. I took the letter with shaking hands. You sent Beatrice. I did. Sarah described exactly what kind of woman you'd need. Strong, capable, kind. Someone who understood loss. Martha smiled. I think she'd approve of Miss Holcomb. I stared at the letter, at Sarah's handwriting, at the final message from my dead wife. You going to open it? Beatrice asked softly. Was I? I stood there holding Sarah's letter, rain starting to fall for the first time in 8 months. Fat drops, real rain, not dust. The sound of it hitting the parched earth was like a miracle made audible. Open it, Beatrice said softly. She wanted you to have it. My hands were shaking. I broke the seal carefully, unfolded the paper. Sarah's handwriting, neat, precise, the way she did everything. My dearest Silas, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you're raising our daughter alone. I'm so sorry, my love. Sorry I couldn't stay. Sorry I'm leaving you with this impossible weight. But I know you. You'll blame yourself. You'll think you failed me, failed Emma. You'll try to do everything alone because that's what war taught you. Never depend on anyone because they might not be there when you need them. Please don't do that. There's a woman coming. Martha promised to send her when the time was right. She'll be strong and capable and probably stubborn as a mule. She'll need to be to deal with you. Let her help. Let her in. Not because you're weak, but because Emma needs more than one person's love to grow up whole. And Silas, I want you to know something. I release you from guilt, from grief, from the idea that loving again means forgetting me. It doesn't. Love isn't finite. It multiplies. If this woman makes you laugh again, let her. If she makes Emma smile, thank God for her. If you find yourself falling in love with her, don't fight it. I'm not there anymore, but she is, and that's exactly what I prayed for. One more thing. I never told you this, but my grandmother was Cherokee, Naomi Whitehorse's cousin. I didn't know much about it. Mama left the tribe young, but if something happens to me, Naomi can help. Our daughter has Cherokee blood. That matters. That connects her to something bigger than just us. Take care of our Emma. Take care of yourself. And if this woman who comes to help you turns out to be someone you could love, someone you could build a new family with, do it. With my blessing, with all my love. Always, Sarah. The letter blurred as tears filled my eyes. I felt Beatrice's hand on my arm. Felt the rain falling harder now. Felt Emma stirring against her shoulder. She knew, I whispered. Sarah knew you'd come. She hoped someone would, Beatrice said gently. No. She knew it'd be you, described you exactly, strong, capable, stubborn. I laughed through tears. She released me. Told me to love again. Told me to let you in. Beatrice was crying too now. Silas, I'm done waiting. I pulled the ring from my pocket, my grandmother's ring, the one I'd been carrying for days. Beatrice Holcomb, I'm asking properly this time. Not because of custody laws or federal investigators. Not because it's convenient or necessary. I got down on one knee in the mud and rain. Emma cooed, reaching for the shiny ring. I'm asking because I love you. Because you knocked on my door when I'd given up hope. Because you saved my daughter and somehow saved me too. Because when I look at you, I see the future instead of just the past. The rain was pouring now, soaking us, washing away months of dust. Moses and Stern and the others stood watching, grinning like fools. Will you marry me? Build a family with me. Raise Emma and maybe more children with me? Grow old on this farm with me? Beatrice was laughing and crying at the same time. You're proposing in a rainstorm, in the mud, with 50 witnesses. I am. After 6 days of knowing each other. 7, technically, but yes. You're an absolute fool, Silas Brennan. I am. So is that a yes or? She pulled me up, kissed me hard enough to stop my words. Emma squealed between us, delighted. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Yes, Beatrice said when we finally broke apart. Yes, you stubborn, wonderful fool, yes. I slipped the ring on her finger. Perfect fit. Like it had been waiting for her all along. Chief Blackbird stepped forward. If you'd like, I can perform the ceremony right now. Under Cherokee law and Oklahoma state law, I'm authorized for both. Beatrice looked at me. Now. Here? In the rain? Why not? We've done everything else backwards. Might as well get married in a rainstorm on the day we defeated a corrupt banker and saved our daughter. She laughed. When you put it that way. So we got married right there, in the mud and rain, with Moses and Naomi as witnesses, with Emma cooing throughout the ceremony, with the ruins of my barn smoking behind us and the smell of rain on parched earth all around. Blackbird kept it simple, traditional Cherokee words mixed with English, about partnership and respect and choosing your family, about love being a decision you make every day, not just a feeling. When he got to the vows, Beatrice and I faced each other, soaking wet, exhausted, happy. I promise, I said, to love you and Emma every day for the rest of my life, to build something good from all this hardship, to never forget that you saved us both. I promise, Beatrice said, to stand with you through every storm, to raise Emma knowing she's blessed with 2 mothers who loved her, one who gave her life, one who chose her life, to build a family out of loss and make it something beautiful. By the authority vested in me by the Cherokee Nation, Blackbird said with a smile, I now pronounce you husband and wife. I kissed my wife, our wife, Emma's mother, the woman who'd knocked on my door and changed everything. The rain kept falling, sweet and clean and impossible. After 8 months of drought, the sky was finally opening. That evening, we sat on the porch, what was left of it, watching the rain soak into grateful earth. Emma was asleep inside. The others had left, just Beatrice and me and the sound of water drumming on dry ground. What happens now? She asked, leaning against my shoulder. Now we rebuild, the barn, the chicken coop, our lives. I looked at her. We raise Emma. Maybe add some brothers or sisters for her. Start B's school like you always wanted. Use the oil money when it comes in. And Sarah? I thought about the letter, about my wife's final gift. Permission to live, permission to love. We keep her memory alive. Tell Emma stories about her. Visit her grave together. Honor her by living well. I squeezed Beatrice's hand. That's what she wanted. That's what she prayed for. Do you think she knows? Wherever she is? Do you think she knows we're going to be okay? I looked up at the rain clouds, at the lightning dancing on the horizon, at the land Sarah had loved being reborn under this impossible storm. Yeah, I said. I think she knows. Beatrice rested her head on my shoulder. I love you, Silas Brennan. I love you too, Beatrice Brennan. We sat in silence, watching the drought break, watching the land heal, watching our future take shape in the rain. Inside, Emma started crying, not distressed, just awake. Beatrice stood to tend to her, but I pulled her back for one more kiss. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For knocking on my door. For being brave enough to come out in a blizzard to help a stranger. For saving us both." She smiled. "It wasn't bravery. It was necessity. No one should face their darkest hours alone. Well, thanks to you, we never have to again." She went inside. I heard her singing to Emma, that same lullaby from the first night. Heard my daughter's cries soften. Heard my wife's voice mixing with the sound of rain. And for the first time since Sarah died, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever in the trenches of France. Peace. Not the absence of pain, not the absence of memory, but the presence of hope. The knowledge that even when everything seems lost, when dust storms rage and bankers steal and the government threatens and death takes the ones you love, sometimes grace comes knocking. Sometimes a stranger shows up with a basket of food and saves your life without knowing she's saving it. Sometimes you get a second chance. And if you're smart enough, brave enough, stubborn enough to take it, you get to build something beautiful out of the ruins. The rain fell all night. By morning, the dust was settled, the drought was broken, and the Brennan family, all three of us, was ready to begin again. Now, I know some of you are thinking, that's too neat, too clean. Real life don't work that way. And you'd be right. Truth is, Beatrice and I had our share of hard years after that rain. The oil didn't come in for another 18 months. We nearly lost the farm twice more, once to locusts, once to bank failures during the Depression. Emma had nightmares about dust storms till she was grown, and some nights, I still woke up speaking French, back in those trenches, watching boys die. But here's what I learned standing in that rainstorm 60 years ago. Holding a woman I'd known 7 days and loving her like I'd known her forever. Dignity ain't about never falling. It's about who helps you stand back up. A family ain't just blood. It's who shows up when the storms come. And grace? Grace is that knock on your door when you've got nothing left but desperation and a prayer you don't believe will get answered. I lost Beatrice 3 springs ago. 71 years of marriage. 71 years of waking up next to the woman who saved my life by bringing a basket of food during the worst blizzard Kansas ever saw. She never did pawn those pearl earrings. Said she didn't need to. Said she'd found something more valuable than anything she could trade. Emma's a grandmother herself now. Doctor, like Beatrice always said she'd be. Got her mama Sarah's eyes and Beatrice's stubborn streak. Raised 4 children who knew they had 2 mothers who loved them. One who gave her life, one who chose it. If you've ever been that desperate father holding a hungry baby, wondering if you can make it one more day, if you've ever been that brave soul who knocked on a stranger's door because you knew what it meant to suffer alone, if you've ever stood in the ruins of everything you built and wondered if you had the strength to start over, I want you to know, you do. We all do. Because strength ain't something you're born with. It's something people give you when they show up, when they stay, when they choose you, even when they don't have to. That basket of food Beatrice brought wasn't just formula and bread. It was hope. It was tomorrow. It was every good thing I thought died with Sarah, wrapped up in oilcloth and carried through a blizzard by a woman with pearl earrings and a heart brave enough to knock. So if this story touched you, if you've ever needed someone to knock on your door, or if you've ever been the one doing the knocking, I'd be honored to hear about it. Let me know where you're listening from. Let me know if grace found you too. Until next time, friends, may you have the courage to knock when someone needs you. And may you have the wisdom to open your door when grace comes calling. This is Silas Brennan, now 94 years old, still living on that Kansas farm, still grateful for the storm that brought me everything. Dust to dust. Love endures. God bless.